Hello, everybody. I've got a good story for you today. It's called Rose Meets Mr. Wintergarten, and it's by Bob Graham. He's the author. And I chose this book because I wanted to talk today about being open-minded. Does anybody know what it means to be open-minded? Being open-minded means that you might think something and somebody might think something else, and it's okay. So you may not agree with another person, but you can still be friends. You can be open-minded and listen to what they have to say. And sometimes your mind might even change just because you're listening to what other people say. It's also about accepting people who are different in some way. Maybe they eat different food than you do, or maybe they live in a different kind of house than you do. Being open-minded is saying, you know what, that doesn't matter. What matters is the person and the type of person that he or she is. So we're going to think about that as we read Rose Meets Mr. Wintergarten. The morning the Summers family moved into their new house, they felt at home. Faith and Rose put up their pictures, and Baby Blossom watched. Mr. and Mrs. Summers planted pansies, petunias, daisies, and geraniums. Well, if you plant pansies, petunias, daisies, and geraniums, what do you think that those are? If you plant them, right, they're kinds of flowers. Their garden was a carpet of flowers all before the sun went down. Every morning from the roof of their house, the Summerses watched the sun come up. That's kind of silly, isn't it? They're sitting up on their house. I don't ever do that. That's kind of dangerous, huh? The sun never touched the house next door. Next door, everything bristled. Next door lived Mr. Wintergarten. There's not very much color there, I'm noticing in that picture. There's a lot of color on this side, isn't there? There were stories in the street about Mr. Wintergarten. He's mean, said Emily. And horrible, said Arthur. He's got a dog like a wolf, said Naomi. And a saltwater crocodile. They say he rides on his crocodile at night, said Emily. And gets ya, Arthur shrieked. I don't believe you, said Rose. And anyway, don't frighten Blossom. Remember, Blossom's the little sister. My dad lost his football over there when he was a boy, said Emily. You can just see it through the prickles, old and flat as a pancake. No one ever goes in there, said Arthur, in case Mr. Wintergarten eats people. If your ball ever goes over, said Naomi, forget it. And just then Rose's ball went straight over Mr. Wintergarten's fence. Uh-oh, I wonder what they're all thinking right now. Rose went to tell her mom. Well, Honey Bunch, Mom said, you can get your ball back. Why don't you just go and ask him? Because he eats kids, said Rose. We'll take him some cookies instead, said Mom, and maybe some flowers. Mr. Wintergarten's front gate had not been opened for years. Rose heaved and pushed. The gate groaned and squeaked, and then slowly it swung open. Rose could see that there was a dog, big as a wolf. I don't see any crocodiles, she said. I should hope not, replied Mom, and threw the dog a cookie. Rose knocked at Mr. Wintergarten's door. Who the devil is that? Shouted a voice from inside. It's me, said Rose, and tiptoed in. I wonder what he's going to look like. What do you want? Said Mr. Wintergarten. I'm Rose Summers from next door. I've come to ask for my ball back. She twisted her fingers in her handkerchief. I brought some flowers and cookies from my mom. Mr. Wintergarten glared at her. He doesn't look so friendly, does he? His dinner was cold, gray, and uninviting, with gristle floating in it and mosquitoes breeding on top. Yuck. But Rose could see that he wasn't eating children. Please, may I look for my ball? She asked. No, growled Mr. Wintergarten. Go away. But when Rose had gone, Mr. Wintergarten slowly pushed back his chair and did something he hadn't done in years. Mr. Wintergarten opened his curtains. He sat on his front step in the sun. No one has ever asked for their ball back, he said to himself, or brought cookies. He saw Rose's ball and thoughtfully pushed it with his toe. Next, he made some darting movements that made his coattails fly in the sun. And then Mr. Wintergarten kicked the ball. Look what happened here. Right back over the fence. Great kick, said Rose. Nice catch, said Mr. Wintergarten. Would you mind throwing back my slipper? He added. Catch, Mr. Wintergarten, said Rose, throwing back the slipper. Good throw, Rose, said Mr. Wintergarten. Let's play again tomorrow. And look at what they're doing here to his house. They're cleaning it all up, aren't they? What do you suppose changed Mr. Wintergarten's mind? Was Rose open-minded? She was, because all those kids said, don't go talk to him. He's mean. He eats children. But Rose was open-minded. She thought, I'm going to give him a chance. I don't know if that's true. And, he's a person and he deserves a chance. And also Mr. Wintergarten was open-minded because he talked to Rose and let her in the door. And look what happened at the end because they were both open-minded. They both became friends and they were both happy, weren't they? Think about that, being open-minded. Have a good day, everyone.